Good evening and welcome to Kigali. I know some of us have had an adventurous trip here. The good news is everyone here is wearing their clothes. It wasn't looking likely yesterday morning. But that is the pleasure of traveling in these crazy times. But let me first thank all our partners for making this edition possible. And this time we have two new additions to the Kigali Global Dialogue family, which I want to call out first. The G20 Presidency of India. They saw merit in this wonderful gathering that is hosted in Kigali every year, and they have designated this as a G20 International Outreach event. The proceedings from the discussions here will be given to the G20 Presidency in India for their consideration as they engage with voices from emerging and developing countries, and the G20 presidency focuses on the Global South. So what we discuss here is something that is going to play back in New Delhi, and that's something that's new for this edition. The second was that I reached out to our colleagues in South Africa, and I said, since South Africa is chairing the BRICS presidency this year, we should also make this about BRICS, because South Africa was very clear that their BRICS presidency was an Africa presidency. And what better audience to engage with on that subject than those in this room? So my friend Sarah is here, and you will hear her speak later. But the South African BRICS Think Tank Council, and of course the Sherpa for BRICS from South Africa, who will be with us tomorrow, are also invested in what we do over the next 2.5 days. And of course, this is not going to be possible without the Convention Bureau, the Rwanda Convention Bureau, who have continued to be the host of this gathering, making sure that all of us reach here with or without our suitcases. And of course, my tour de force, my partner, my friend, Dr. Usta, who from this year will also be chairing this dialogue. Thank you for your leadership and support for making this happen. On behalf of all of us, let me welcome you. And I hope you have 2.5 wonderful days inside the room, but even better ones outside. These conferences and these gatherings are as much about what happens outside, over meals, over discussions, over breakfast, as they are about what happens inside the room. But that doesn't mean that we won't pull you back into the room if you're missing. So do it on your time, right? I just want to, by way of opening remarks, try and carry forward what I said last year. I mentioned last year that we must resolve, as we were getting out of the pandemic, to make sure that we work better together. We fix global governance, and we are never as helpless as we were during those 2 years of the pandemic. No one cared about what I said. I can confirm to you that 1 year down the road, we are pretty much still there. We are with a global governance system that creaks if not broken. We are with a very sizable constituency that still seeks to serve itself. We are strengthening the cleavages, be it gender, be it economic, be it religion and ideology. Those have become sharper. We are more divided than we were last year, and we are louder. But underneath this very loud social media and mediated reality, there is also a truth. And that truth is visible if you walk down the streets of Kigali. If you go to a small town in South Africa or a rural landscape in India, there is hope and there is optimism. And there is a yearning for a better tomorrow. And it is those that we must seek to serve as we engage in discussions over the next 2.5 days. You know, we are all preparing ourselves for the shared economy, the gig economy, the care economy. No one shares, no one cares. And policy discussions must think about both of those virtues. How can we share better? There is no dearth of resources. There is no dearth of surpluses. There is no dearth of savings. We all have smaller hearts today. And share is not a word that is used in the lexicon of policy making anymore. Neither is care. That's good for soap operas and speeches. And that's something that we must try and make part of the other discussions we have around efficiency and around outcomes and outputs. And of course, the second issue that I had raised last time was on the divisions between some people, the New York Times calls it the West and the rest. I don't think it's necessarily as neat as that, but I think the haves and the have-nots, or those, the incumbents and the aspirants, there are many complexities to the divisions that are playing out when it comes to agency and asymmetry of economic means. But that agency is now something that punctuates all countries and societies. It is no longer geographically divided. All of us face the challenges of equity at home, even as we seek equity in the international system. And what gets precedence in media, in our conversations, fixing home first and then discussing a better global system, or fixing the world first and then fixing the home, is basically the million-dollar puzzle that we are trying to solve as policy folks and as people who work in policy. And finally, this year we introduced a new facet to the Kigali Dialogue. We started with a boot camp for innovators and technologists. This morning we had the third boot camp, the first in Rwanda, but the third boot camp. And we had 25 startups from 11 countries who came down, many of them working on issues of technology for development, using innovation to respond to the SDG challenges. But beyond just the SDGs and beyond just technology for good, we also have to start thinking about regulating, governing, and managing technology, because it also has implications for our politics, for our society, for our identities. In 2024, next year, for the first time since the advent of the big social media platforms, some of the largest populations are going to go and pick up their leaders in an election. The United States is going for voting next year, so is India, so is the EU. I think Indonesia goes as well, and then you have UK too, and many others. Literally half the world is likely to be voting tomorrow, so next year. And tomorrow and day after, when we discuss technology, we must also keep in mind questions of stability, order, hate, misinformation, and other questions that technology is posing to all of us as folks who engage on this subject. And that is again something we want to discuss over the next 2.5 days. And we want a view from not the usual suspects, from London, Paris, and Berlin, and New York, but from others who are likely to be more implicated if the technology landscape appears unregulated and unmanaged. So a long roster of issues to discuss, but the good news is we are all here, some of the brightest minds, some of the most eager minds, optimistic minds, decisive minds, sharp voices, and moreover, voices from 70-odd countries. The diversity in this room is astounding, even as the size is more intimate. And we should use this moment of diverse gatherings to not strengthen our viewpoint, but actually aim to dilute ours. Go to someone who differs from you and understand why they disagree with you, rather than try to change their mind. Let them share their best argument with you. And you might reach a pathway that would be accommodative for both. So reach out to people you haven't met before, make new networks, make new friends, make new conversations, and enjoy the next 2.5 days. But let me now invite my dear friend Dr. Usta to open this conference and deliver the opening remarks. Dr. Usta.
Thank you very much, Dr. Samir. Excellencies, First Lady, Your Excellency, former President of Bolivia, Your Excellency, the former Prime Minister of Mali, distinguished Excellencies, representatives of countries, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, who is also our inaugural speaker today, a good evening and welcome to Kigali. I know some of you are coming to Kigali for more than once, but for those who are coming for the first time, I guess you feel at home. And as Samir said, spend a lot of time in the room, but also move around Kigali and Rwanda where possible. I want to thank the co-organizers of this conference and dialogue for the opportunity again to co-organize and engage on the things that affect us the most. Rwanda, as a country, privileges the power of dialogue. Almost 30 years ago, we nearly were destroyed by ideologies and discrimination. Reconstruction for us has meant expanding the spectrum, listening to one another, listening to the things that separate us, but finding good reason for the things that unite us. Realizing that our existential threat is a common factor, and we might die together if we do not choose to survive together. So the Kigali Dialogue for us is a great opportunity to share the story that we can survive, to share the story that it's not how deep you went. We went as far as almost nearly eradicating the Tutsi in this country, but it's how far you want to go. And when you choose on how far you want to go, you must understand what your threats are. And as we meet today to discuss on things that threaten us, issues of climate change, issues of inclusion and equality, issues of institutions that are supposed to be serving us, I guess that as you come to Kigali to discuss, to dialogue, you realize the beauty of diversity. You realize the fact that there's a lot of common aspects about us than the things that separate us. Climate change threatens all of us. It might be at different degrees, but certainly the direction it's taking is a threat to all of us. Poverty, however far it looks from you, it will eventually affect you. Living a dignified life is a core element. Including women and giving them an opportunity to live their full life and participate in the development of their countries can never be overstated, because the population is more than half women. And it doesn't make any business, any strategic, any ideological sense if we limit some of us to be innovators and to be contributors in the development journey that we take. So I want to welcome you to Kigali and to incite you to think about the things that will change us, the things that will make this world better. You know, half of this room can think how many more years that we will be creating the legacy. And what legacy do you want to create? Do you want our generations and the generations after us to continuously blame us for being selfish? Or do you want our generations to appreciate the great innovations that we've done, but also to hand over a sustainable future, to hand over a world that is better than we found here? Now, the Rwanda that was in 1994 is certainly better than the one that you're coming in today. But the challenges that we all have today are also true and real in this country. So as we think and discuss on the power of what new technologies have to offer us, I think we come to Rwanda with a lot of hope. And I hope you leave Rwanda with a lot of partnership, a lot of inspiration, and a lot of innovations to take the world to a better place. Thank you very much. And if I may, I will invite the Honorable Minister, who is going to give us the inaugural speech for this conference. Thank you very much.
Excellency Auxilia Mnangagwa, First Lady of the Republic of Zimbabwe, His Excellency Jorge Quiroga, former President of Bolivia, His Excellency Musa Mara, former Prime Minister of the Republic of Mali, and Madam, Dr. Samir Saran, President of the Observer Research Foundation, Dr. Usta Kaitesi, CEO of the Rwanda Governance Board, distinguished guests. It is once again a pleasure to welcome you all to this third Kigali Global Dialogue. We are indeed delighted to host this very important conference in Kigali. And I wish to take this opportunity to thank the Observer Research Foundation, ORF America, Rwanda Governance Board, and the South Africa BRICS think tank for co-hosting this remarkable conference. Your dedication to creating an inclusive platform for debate and dialogue is indeed commendable. I'm sure that this will be a great occasion to reflect on contemporary issues of development and growth facing our world and discuss various opportunities that can be exploited to ensure we address these matters. Today, we find ourselves at a pivotal moment in history where urgent action is needed to protect our planet and ensure the well-being of its inhabitants. The 5 thematic pillars of this year's conference reflect the pressing issues that demand our attention and collective efforts. Firstly, the pillar of resource equity reminds us of the need for new approaches to natural resources governance and management. A just transition for Africa and the world will depend on successfully and equitably harnessing the economic benefits of natural resources. Good governance and sound macro fiscal management of resource revenues, while also preparing for a low carbon future, lies at the heart of this transition and must play a central role in the economic transformation of Africa's future. The second pillar urges us to reimagine the relationship between technology and society. As we pursue green transition and support human progress, it is essential that we ensure equitable access to technologies worldwide. We must also nurture startup ecosystems and digital economies in countries and cities that are developing solutions for the benefit of all. The third pillar, Unleash Gender-First Development, highlights the measurable barriers faced by women and girls in their pursuit of equitable participation in societies worldwide. It is our duty to support their fight for justice and equity across all domains, knowing that their contributions will shape our future. Remonetizing development, a new global governance framework, the fourth pillar of this year's Kigali Global Dialogue, emphasizes the need to reimagine and realize new development frameworks grounded in justice and equity. This requires us to redesign global institutions and financial arrangements, paving the way for a fairer system that serves the needs of all nations. And lastly, as more than half of our speakers are women, and a significant focus is placed on amplifying the voices from the Global South. I'm confident that the third edition of the Kigali Global Dialogue will be a catalyst for positive change. Together, we can contribute to redefining the contours of development and growth, laying the groundwork for a more sustainable, inclusive, and just future. I wish you a fruitful engagement, and I thank you for your kind attention.
Well, I hope the lights stay on. I feel a little bit short all of a sudden. Thank you, Minister Biruta. Thank you, distinguished guests, excellencies. Thank you, Honorable Dr. Usta Kaitesi, Excellency, Honorable Foreign Minister Biruta. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your thoughtful remarks and for all of your support in making this dialogue possible. I think both of our speakers have highlighted something important, which is the need to define new pathways forward. And I think this is the most critical question and the biggest project of our time. Global challenges from climate change to food insecurity to biodiversity loss all mean that we need to collaborate. And in the face of uncertainties at the scale and urgency that we face today, collaboration is our most important tool, and it's our only option. And that requires dialogue, and it requires dialogue among a diversity, a plurality of actors from civil society, from governments, from multilateral development organizations and banks, all of whom are here with us. This conference is not about political rhetoric. These conversations are not scripted and the outcomes are not predetermined. And these are exactly the conversations that we need to have in order to define those new pathways forward. These are the difficult discussions that we're going to be having over the next few days. Kigali Global Dialogue is about contributing to and shaping a new consensus and defining those new pathways that are going to be adequate responses to the scale and difficulty of the global challenges that we face today. But it's clear that talk is not going to be enough. Dialogue, I hope that we use this dialogue to rethink, to dismantle the unsustainable and unjust systems that we have today, and also that we breathe life into new frameworks and new ideas. My hope is that we take advantage of this opportunity here and this platform to collaborate and instigate action. I would like to thank all of our guests and all of our partners. I would like to thank all of you for joining us here and for taking the time and making the effort to join this dialogue. And I would like to thank, first and foremost, the Rwanda Governance Board for their partnership. I would like to thank the Rwanda Convention Bureau for all of their support, as well as the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation. So thank you to everyone for being here, and we're looking forward to the next few days of dialogue. Thank you.
What we have also done this year, besides the boot camp for startups and technology innovators, we have in our programming brought an element from what we are doing, a little bit of India to Rwanda. We brought a little bit of India to Rwanda. We are celebrating the year of the millet, and we are organizing some very special dinner menus based on millets, sourced from Rwanda locally, the grain sourced from here, and we had a celebrity chef down from Delhi who's going to speak to you and tell you what he's planning to do with millets. And I thought we should do this at this time because you're going to have some of that at dinner later today. We still have a panel before now and dinner, but I thought maybe we should use this this evening in this inaugural session to introduce our celebrity chef who's going to be putting together a number of dishes over the next 3 days based on millet, including desserts and including savories, all sourced from Rwanda with a little bit of India, a little bit of dash of India. Vardhan, can you come and talk to us and tell us what you're cooking up for us later this evening and then tomorrow and day after?
Hey, good evening, everyone. Why are we talking about millets is the question. We are at this stage in the world where the climate is changing. Crops, the way they were planted, have completely shifted. The change because of drought. People are suffering all around the world. So there's this crop which is millet. And as a kid, when I was in India as a kid, we were always told that millets is something, this is for poor people or bird feed. And we never got to eat millet as a kid. But now that people have understood the importance of it, how nutritious it is, and how it can change the way people look at farming, it is mind-blowing. And that is why countries like, places like Asia, Africa, US, need to focus on millets. We have to promote millets. We have to ask our farmers to shift to growing millets because it can stand any amount of heat. It can stand drought. And it can also make them more money rather than a crop or a wheat or a maize, for a matter of fact. And today, what I'm doing with millets is we're doing 4 dishes in tonight's dinner, and consecutively on the other dinners, 1 dish, which will be celebrating India, Africa, and millets. So we'll be having some flatbreads with some Indian twist on it, some dessert, some salad, and everything around millets. So I would really request you to do try those millet dish, and when you go back to your country, please talk about it. Talk about how millets can change. It's also very nutritious. It's also good for people who have diabetes. It's this one thing that when you consume, it digests very slowly. So you don't have those spikes in sugar levels. So in every way possible, millets is something that can help you or your country. So please, I request you to talk about it more often. Thank you.
Great. So millets, that's also the International Year of Millets. India is focusing on this in a big manner in its G20 presidency.